I know I said that I would be taking a break from reviewing songs by Toni Basil in my recent video about Spacewalking the Dog, but, to be honest, I had reckoned without the possibility of a sudden burst of motivation to try it again. So here I am to share my 2 cents on one more song from the woman who's known mainly for the Mickey song of 1982. This time, we'll look at Do You Wanna Dance of 1983. Ordinarily, I use footage of Metrolink trains in the background of my videos about Toni Basil, but this time, most of the Train Sim World 5 footage will be recorded on the Northern Transpennine route instead of the San Bernardino line. The only reason I'm featuring Northern Transpennine, Manchester to Leeds, in particular is because it is set in 1983, the same year in which Toni released her self-titled second album. Meanwhile, for any real-life footage I use, I'll try to stick to the theme of trains going like the clappers, because I think that suits the vibe of the song quite well. As for why I'm using footage that doesn't really have anything to do with the song itself, that is simply to avoid risking copyright issues if I were to use clips of the actual song. Do You Wanna Dance is the second out of 9 songs on Toni's self-titled album, and was also one of 4 tracks to be released as a single, alongside Over My Head, Street Beat, and Suspense. But unlike those 3, Do You Wanna Dance is not a Toni Basil original. Instead, it's a cover of a 1973 song by Barry Blue. Seeing as Toni has a long history of working as a dancer, I think this was quite a fitting song for her to record. As for the original Barry Blue version, I have no interest in listening to it, so I can't comment on it. As an aside, I brought up Toni in conversation with a friend, who happens to be a dancer, the other day, and was pleasantly surprised when this friend said that she already knew of locking, and, by extension, a certain group called the Lockers. Although I've always thought that I'm not cut out for being a dancer myself, I still feel a little silly for not understanding what the terms locking and whacking mean. As an aside, why is whacking spelt with another A as the second letter instead of an H? And why is it called whacking in the first place? The album version of Do You Wanna Dance is only 3 minutes and 58 seconds long, but you can also find a rare extended version, which brings the song's length up to 5 minutes and 21 seconds. The extended version opens with a 46-second long intro, featuring a blasting drum beat, random record scratches for some reason, and roaring guitars, before the chorus kicks in, followed by 2 verses, another chorus, and the 3rd verse. Then there's a long instrumental break between the 3rd verse and chorus, followed by the bridge and final chorus, which, for some reason, is sung in a noticeably higher key. Lyrically, I always thought Do You Wanna Dance was fairly simple, being sung from the perspective of someone who's in the mood for a bit of dancing, and encouraging a potential partner to dance with them. This is by no means the most serious song on the album. I'd say that honour goes to Suspense. As an aside, Suspense is, in my opinion, a pretty goddamn phenomenal song, complete with Toni's impressive singing, a stomping drum beat, crazy synth lines, and a screaming guitar solo, not to mention the clever lyrics that can really get one thinking. For instance, what's that whole thing with the guy being caught back in Vienna? Assuming you're specifically referring to the capital city of Austria. In any case, and for some reason, the guitar solo on Suspense always catches me off guard. Do You Wanna Dance has a very similar theme to Into the Groove by Madonna, but I would go so far as to say that the Toni Basil song is Into the Groove done right, not only because I think it sounds better overall, but also because that Madonna song doesn't have any long instrumental breaks. It's just a constant barrage of singing once the intro's over. Of course, if you happen to like Into the Groove, that's alright by me. Toni is accompanied by a big set of backing singers for the chorus, but the backups are not present in the verses and bridge, where Toni takes the floor alone, as it were. Although I found the chorus to be a bit repetitive, I can't deny that it has a really energetic and, dare I say, happy sound, and I suppose the repetition helps to make the song more memorable, in the same way that the cheerleader chant on Mickey helped to make that song as memorable as it is. The chorus on Do You Wanna Dance also paints a picture in my mind of a group of mates getting together and just having fun, something I haven't really had the chance to experience myself, at least not as often as I would like. And while I'm on the topic of pictures painted in my mind, the overall sound of Easy For You To Say, that's another little-known track from Toni's second album, reminds me of the gloomy atmosphere of the South Island's west coast on a rainy day, especially when the music picks up after the first chorus. I'm not saying Easy For You To Say is absolutely awful, but, to be honest, it is my least favourite song on the album. As far as I can tell, the instrumentation on Do You Wanna Dance is made up of a Simmons drum, keyboards, electric guitars, and a bass guitar, with the end result being a sound that, in my mind at least, is a little different from what I'd normally expect from early 80s new wave. Ordinarily, I prefer real drums over an electric kit or drum machine, but even then, I still like the sound of the Simmons drum. At least I think it's a Simmons drum. I dare say someone will correct me if I'm wrong. Its use on this song results in a grunty driving beat, which, to an extent, reminds me of Turn Up the Radio by Autograph and On Every Street by Dire Straits, although the Autograph song uses gated drums instead of an electric kit. And the drums in On Every Street don't properly kick in until the 3-minute and 34-second mark, long after Mark Knopfler stops singing. Much like Over My Head, On Every Street is another phenomenal song whose praises I cannot sing highly enough. Despite being released as a single, Do You Wanna Dance never got a music video, and sadly it didn't chart anywhere. In my mind, I can imagine a music video for this song featuring Toni in a scene where she acts out the lyrics aboard a passenger train, interspersed with external shots of the train rushing past the camera at speed. I'm imagining the train being hauled by something like 4079 Pendennis Castle from the Great Western Railway of England, one of the New Zealand Railway's JA class, or even the monstrous Victorian Railway's H220 from Australia. Before I get to the conclusion, I have 3 questions for Toni Basil herself, if, by some miracle, she's actually watching. 1. Can you tell your fans about how and why your second album came to be? 2. What do the lyrics on Go For The Burn actually mean? And 3. Out of the 9 songs on that album, did you have a favourite one to sing? Briefly thinking back to Go For The Burn for a moment, I like that song mainly for the instrumentation, which is pretty damn catchy and, I don't say this word often, groovy. And something tells me that you had a lot of fun singing that song, but the lyrics don't make much sense to me. This has been my 2 cents on Do You Wanna Dance, a little-known gem from the early 1980s. It's a real shame that this song never charted, not even at a low rank on the Billboard Hot 100, because, in my opinion, it deserved to be a massive hit on par with Mickey. Despite its obscurity, Do You Wanna Dance always puts me in a good mood whenever I listen to it, and, as is the case with the other 3 Toni Basil songs that I've reviewed, I couldn't recommend listening to it highly enough. There will now be a short intermission before the epilogue. This is the epilogue, and in this case, It's going to be a message to Toni Basil herself. I'm including it in the video because I don't know where else to put it, and to tell the truth, I'm too nervous to contact you directly, be it through Facebook or email. In any case, I don't blame you if you think it's odd for a young man in New Zealand, of all places, to have such a strong interest in your music, but, as my dad would say, it takes all sorts to make a world. Incidentally, besides the entirety of your second album, the other songs of yours that I've listened to so far are Breakaway and Mickey. I was introduced to you and your music solely through this one video by Todd in the Shadows, in which he reviews Mickey. I was curious to look further than just the big hit, and the rest, as they say, is history. The first video I made after returning home from England was a review of Over My Head, and since then, I've also looked at Mickey and Spacewalking the Dog, as well as made that silly train horn cover of Mickey. I'm sorry if I've offended, annoyed, or upset you through making these videos. It wasn't my intention for that to happen. I wanted to review these songs as nothing more than a way of expressing my interest in them, and an attempt at raising awareness of the lesser-known parts of your discography. I may be an idiot, but I'm not stupid, so I like to think that I'm smart enough to not expect, nor ask for, anything in return for these videos. Come to think of it, when I was talking to that friend of mine the other day, that's the one I mentioned earlier, who knows about the lockers, she said that this whole thing will fade with time, as it were. Despite all the stress I've had lately, I'm still happy to have discovered you and the Breakaway, Mickey, and Over My Head songs, not to mention the other 8 tracks on your second album. And although I know bugger all about the world of dance, I still admire what you've done for that industry down the years. Take care, Toni Basil, and Godspeed.